It was a bright Sunday morning, and the church was filled with soft music and the smell of fresh flowers. People greeted one another with warm smiles and hugs. It was Mother's Day, a special day for many families. Margaret stood at the church gate, holding a small bouquet of lilies. She wore her best lace dress, the one she saved for special occasions. Her heart was full of quiet joy. Today, she would sit beside her son Jared and his wife Tasha. She had not seen them in a while, but she hoped this would be a good day. She walked slowly down the aisle, careful not to step on anyone's toes. She spotted the pew where Jared and Tasha always sat, second row from the front, on the right. As she got closer, she smiled and lifted her hand in a small wave. But then something strange happened. Tasha stood up. Her face was cold. She leaned toward Margaret and whispered sharply, but loud enough for others nearby to hear, "We didn't save you a seat. Go sit somewhere else." Witch. The words stung like a slap. A few people nearby turned their heads. Someone gasped. Margaret's smile faded. She looked at her son, hoping he would say something, anything. Jared didn't even look at her. His eyes were fixed on the hymn book in his hands. He said nothing. Margaret stood there for a few seconds, frozen. She wanted to disappear. Her hands trembled slightly around the flowers. The space beside Jared could easily fit one more person, but it didn't matter now. A young usher, probably no older than 20, noticed the scene and came up to her quietly. "Ma'am, would you like to sit in the back with me?" he asked gently. Margaret nodded without a word. She followed him to the back row, far from the front, far from her son. She sat down and placed the flowers beside her on the wooden bench. Her back was straight. Her eyes stayed on the stage. But many years ago, in 1989, Margaret's life changed forever. Her husband, Thomas, died in a car accident on a rainy night. Jared was only 4 years old at the time. From that day on, Margaret became both mother and father to her son. She worked 2 jobs, one as a cleaner at a local school during the day, and another as a hotel laundry worker at night. Life was hard, but she never gave up. Every meal she made, every pair of shoes she bought, every bedtime story she read, all of it was for Jared. She never remarried. People asked her why. She always smiled and said, "My hands are full. My son needs me." Margaret was known in the neighborhood as a strict mother. She didn't allow Jared to stay out late, and she expected good grades from him. She made sure he went to church every Sunday and said please and thank you. Some people thought she was too harsh. "You're doing too much," they told her. But Margaret didn't mind. To her, it was all love. As the years passed, Jared grew into a fine young man. He was polite, hard-working, and smart. Margaret was proud of him every single day. He became the first person in their family to go to college. When he graduated with honors, Margaret cried tears of joy. She wore her best dress to the ceremony and clapped the loudest when his name was called. Time moved on. Jared became a lawyer. He got a job at a big firm and soon after married a woman named Tasha. She was beautiful, well-spoken, and worked as a corporate event planner. But from the beginning, Tasha never warmed up to Margaret. She was always polite in front of others, but cold when they were alone. Margaret noticed the little things, how Tasha never hugged her, how she sighed when Margaret spoke, how she rolled her eyes when Jared wasn't looking. After the wedding, things slowly got worse. Tasha set rules. Margaret could only visit if she was invited. She wasn't allowed to drop by without notice. Phone calls often went unanswered. When she did get through, Tasha would answer and say, "We're busy right now," before hanging up. Margaret lived alone in a small apartment. She had old pictures of Jared on the wall and a small Bible on her table. She still cooked his favorite food sometimes, just in case he stopped by. But he never did. She missed her son. She missed hearing him laugh. She missed the days when he would run into her arms after school. But no matter how cold things got, she didn't stop hoping. She told herself that deep down, Jared still loved her. She believed that love, real love, could melt even the coldest heart. So she kept showing up. The morning after Mother's Day, Margaret sat quietly in her apartment, staring at the flowers she had brought home from church. They had begun to wilt already. Her heart still ached from what happened, and sleep had not come easy the night before. Her phone rang. It was her old friend, Mrs. Adeyemi, from church. "Margaret," her voice was full of concern. "Are you all right?" Margaret tried to stay calm. "I'm fine," she said softly. "I saw what happened yesterday," Mrs. Adeyemi continued. "I recorded it. I didn't plan to, but I couldn't believe it. Margaret said nothing. Her throat felt tight. The video is going around, her friend said gently. It's in the women's WhatsApp group already. People are talking. Even the church committee is meeting about it. Margaret's heart sank. She didn't want attention or drama. She had only gone to church to feel close to her family, to feel loved. Instead, now everyone knew her pain. Over the next few days, Margaret received messages from strangers and church members. Some said they were praying for her. Some told her she didn't deserve what happened. Others just wrote, "I'm so sorry." But from Jared, nothing. No call, no text, not even a word. Later that week, Margaret decided to go to his office. She didn't want to argue. She just needed answers. She needed to see his face. Jared's office was clean and quiet. A young receptionist led her to a small meeting room. When Jared entered, he looked surprised to see her. He sat down across from her with a heavy sigh. Margaret's hands shook slightly. She placed them in her lap and spoke softly. "Why did you let her speak to me like that, Jared? In front of everyone? I am your mother." Jared didn't look at her. He stared at the table. "Mom," he began slowly, "you've always been judgmental." Margaret blinked. "Judgmental?" "Tasha feels unsafe around you," he added. "She says you make her feel small. You're always correcting her. She's tired of it." Margaret's voice cracked. "Unsafe? I don't understand. I've only ever tried to be part of your life. That's all." There was a long silence. Then Jared said something that made her blood run cold. "Tasha has spoken to a lawyer. She's thinking about filing for a restraining order." Margaret's mouth fell open. "A what?" "She's calling it emotional harassment," Jared said quietly. "She says it's affecting her mental health." Margaret felt the world spin around her. "And you? You agree with her?" Jared still didn't look up. "I don't want trouble, Mom. I just want peace." Margaret stood slowly. Her legs felt weak, but she refused to fall apart in front of him. "You were my whole world, Jared. I gave you everything." He stayed silent. She looked at him one last time. Her son, the little boy she once carried on her back to school, and walked out. Tears streamed down her cheeks as the office door closed behind her. The son she had raised with love and sacrifice now saw her as a problem. The love she had poured out for years had been turned against her. After the meeting at Jared's office, Margaret changed. She stopped going to church. She didn't answer phone calls from friends. She stopped calling Jared. Her days became quiet and long. She sat alone in her small apartment, folding clothes that didn't need folding, watering plants that didn't need water. The pain inside her heart was too heavy to carry, so she tried to feel nothing at all. Each time her phone buzzed, she hoped it was Jared. It never was. Tasha, on the other hand, was busy. She was still telling people that Margaret was toxic, difficult and controlling. She told church members that Margaret made her feel unsafe and judged. Slowly, people began to believe it. Jared also began therapy, but it was with Tasha's own therapist, someone who only heard one side of the story. Jared sat in sessions listening to Tasha speak about her trauma and how Margaret made her feel like a bad wife. Over time, Jared started to believe her words. He began to see his mother, not as the woman who raised him with love and strength, but as someone who hurt his wife. Not everyone believed the story, though. Danielle, Jared's cousin, had grown up close to both Jared and Margaret. She remembered how hard Margaret had worked. She remembered the birthday cakes, the late-night homework help, the warm hugs and kind words. She had always seen Margaret as a strong, loving woman. One afternoon, Danielle visited Margaret. The older woman looked tired, her eyes dull, her voice low. "Auntie," Danielle said softly, "I saw the video. I heard what they're saying. This isn't right. You raised Jared with your whole heart. He wouldn't be who he is without you." Margaret gave her a sad smile, but said nothing. Danielle left that day with fire in her heart. Something was wrong, and she wanted to know what it was. She began looking into Tasha's past, quietly, carefully. She searched online, asked questions, made phone calls. What she found shocked her. Tasha had no close family. She had cut ties with her own parents years ago. Former co-workers from 2 different jobs said she had personality conflict and often left after problems with others. One old friend admitted that Tasha had slowly pushed her out of her life after getting married. It was a pattern of control, isolation, and quiet manipulation. Back in Margaret's apartment, things got worse. One morning, she found a letter slipped under her door. It was from the court. Tasha had officially filed for a protective order, saying Margaret had caused her emotional harm and that she feared for her safety. The paper also showed that Jared had signed the document in support. Margaret's hands shook as she read the words. The room felt cold. Her own son had signed something calling her an abuser. She needed help. She couldn't fight this alone. With help from Danielle, she found a legal aid office. That's where she met Amir Collins, a young but sharp attorney who listened carefully as she told her story. Amir didn't rush her. He watched her closely, taking notes as she spoke about raising Jared alone, about the church incident, about the silence that followed. When she was finished, he leaned forward and said, "Mrs. Margaret, they are trying to paint you as someone dangerous, but everything you've told me says the opposite. We need to fight this. We need to prove your true character and uncover what Tasha is hiding." For the first time in weeks, Margaret felt a small light inside her. It wasn't hope, not yet, but it was something close. The day of the court hearing arrived. Margaret wore a plain but neat dress. Her hair was tied back, and she carried herself with quiet strength. She didn't look around much. She just wanted it to be over. The courtroom was small. A few people sat in the benches. Jared was there, dressed in a suit, looking tired and nervous. Tasha sat beside him. Her arms were crossed, her face cold and calm. Margaret sat next to her lawyer, Amir Collins, who gave her a small nod of encouragement. When the judge walked in, everyone stood. Then the case began. Tasha's lawyer spoke first. He said Margaret was emotionally abusive, that she made Tasha feel unsafe and unwelcome. He said Tasha feared more emotional attacks, and that the restraining order was to protect her peace of mind. Margaret sat still. Her face didn't move, but inside her heart was breaking. Then Amir stood and spoke. "Your Honor, we will prove that Margaret is not a threat, but a victim of false accusations and manipulation." He walked over to a folder and pulled out a stack of papers. These are letters Jared wrote to his mother during college. He thanked her for working 2 jobs, for supporting him, for never giving up on him. He handed copies to the judge. These letters show love, not fear. Next, Amir called in witnesses. An old neighbor stood. "Margaret was always kind. She helped me when I had surgery. She was strict, yes, but never unkind." A teacher from Jared's high school came. "Margaret never missed a meeting. She pushed Jared to succeed. She was proud of him." A friend from church spoke. "She brought food to sick members. She's the reason I stayed in church." One by one, the people who truly knew Margaret told the court the same thing. She was loving, giving, strong. Then Danielle was called. She walked to the stand and held up her phone. "I have voice messages," she said. "These are from Tasha to one of her friends." She pressed play. The court grew silent. Tasha's voice filled the room. "That old woman, she's just trash. I'm tired of pretending. I'm going to make Jared cut her off completely." There were gasps in the room. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. Amir spoke again. "This shows the real plan. Not fear, but control." Then came the biggest surprise. A Zoom call was set up. A woman appeared on the screen, her face hidden, voice changed. "I worked with Tasha a few years ago," she said. "She told me to stop talking to my mum, said she was toxic. At first, I believed her, but she just wanted control. When I pushed back, she started spreading lies about me. I left that job soon after." Amir asked, "Would you say she tried to isolate you?" "Yes," the woman replied. "She's very good at turning people against those who love them." The courtroom was completely quiet. Jared looked pale. His hands shook slightly. He looked at his mother, then at Tasha, and stood up slowly. The judge gave him permission to speak. He took a deep breath. "My mother may be old-fashioned. She has strong opinions, but she is not a threat." His voice cracked. "She's the reason I'm here today. She gave me everything. I let someone tell me she was the problem, and I believed it." His eyes filled with tears. "I have failed her. I see that now." The judge nodded slowly. Then she spoke. "There is no proof that Margaret is a threat to anyone. There is, however, clear evidence of manipulation and false claims. The request for a restraining order is denied. Case dismissed." Margaret closed her eyes and took a deep breath. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Tasha was angry. Her face was red with rage as she turned to Jared. "You humiliated me in there," she shouted, "in front of everyone." Jared stayed calm. He looked at her for a long moment before speaking. "You poisoned my heart against the woman who raised me," he said quietly. "You made me believe lies. I see it now, and I don't think I can trust you anymore." Tasha stepped back, shocked. She tried to speak again, but Jared turned and walked away. 2 weeks later, Jared packed his bags and left the apartment he shared with Tasha. He didn't argue. He didn't explain further. He just left. He knew it was time to start over. He found a small place to stay and started therapy again. But this time, alone. He chose a new therapist, someone neutral, who could help him understand everything that had happened. Meanwhile, Margaret stayed quiet. She didn't call him. She didn't chase him. Her heart was still hurting, but she had learned to let go. If he wanted to come back, it would have to be his choice. One evening, Margaret was sitting in a small diner near her home. She liked the place. It was quiet and friendly. The smell of jollof rice and fried plantain filled the air. Suddenly the bell above the door rang. She looked up. It was Jared. He walked over slowly, nervous. "Hi, Mom," he said. Margaret gave a small smile. "Hello, Jared." He sat down across from her. For a while, they just looked at each other. No one spoke. Then Jared's eyes filled with tears. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said. "I believe things I shouldn't have. I stayed silent when you needed me most, but I want to try to be your son again." Margaret didn't speak right away. She reached across the table and took his hand gently. Her voice was soft. "Try is all I ever needed." They sat together in the warm diner. There were no big speeches, no perfect endings, but there was hope, and that was enough. 1 year later, it was Mother's Day again. Margaret was at the local shelter, where she now volunteered every weekend. She helped serve meals, folded clothes, and gave warm hugs to women and children who had no place else to go. It made her feel useful. It gave her peace. That morning, she was arranging trays of food when a young volunteer walked in, holding a bouquet of white roses. "This is for you," the girl said, handing the flowers to Margaret. Margaret looked surprised. "For me?" She noticed a small envelope tucked inside the bouquet. Her hands trembled a little as she opened it and read the simple words written in neat handwriting. "To the woman who gave me everything. I see you now. I honor you, Jared." Tears filled her eyes. She pressed the note to her chest and smiled softly. Just then, there was a knock at the shelter door. She turned around, and there was Jared, standing there with a shy smile and a homemade cake in his hands. "Happy Mother's Day," he said. Margaret's lips trembled. She walked over and hugged him tightly. Jared didn't let go for a long time. Together, they spent the day at the shelter. They served food side by side, shared laughs with the children, and talked to the mothers sitting alone. Margaret didn't think about the pain of the past anymore. It was still there, but it no longer controlled her. She had her son beside her. She had truth, peace, and a second chance. And sometimes, that was more than enough. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Don't forget to like, share, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit that subscribe button for more powerful stories. See you next time. Bye.